On a Saturday, my friends, look at this. A United States congressman, an ally of Trump, what did he do now? He pressured, right? This happened just now today. A short while ago, the United States Secretary of the Treasury pressured Alexandre de Moraes even more with all the sanctions he received. They're not letting up, my friends, not even on the weekend. Because a lot of complaints are coming in, for example, about his website, which goes offline, comes back online, goes offline, comes back, and now it's down again. Definitely, these guys want to get justice. Over there in the United States, Gilmar Mendes ended up creating a situation where the banks are not required to comply. The magnificent law. Yes, here in Brazil, they can do whatever they want. But in the United States, the Trump administration can do whatever they want, including maintaining partnerships or not. This situation left Alexandre de Moraes right now already in the first hours in complete despair because those guys are working, they're operating over there. In a strong, heavy way, that's a fact. I'll show everything here and other repercussions as well. The video is amazing. Hit that like button, come join our family by subscribing to the channel. I want to send a special hug to the folks from Campo de Goitacazes, my great friend Amadeu Diniz Queridão. Thank you for the tips and everything. They're always following our channel here. The cool crew, Mauricio B.O. and MacGyver. Our friends from Campo de Goitacazes always keeping up with us. You all know how much I love Rio de Janeiro, right? Everyone's watching the Paisevilhos channel, Fabiano Guiguet. I appreciate it. This is a recent report from Paulo Capelli. Those guys aren't giving Zandão a break at all anymore. Look at what happened. Congressman Rick McCormick, a Republican ally of Trump. He's kind of like, you could say, the Sanderson from the Progressive Liberal Party. This congressman has done a great job in Rio Grande do Sul. He sent an official letter to the United States Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Besser, the one who met with Eduardo Bolsonaro and Paulo Figueiredo. He's the guy with the BIC pen who signs the checks in the United States. He's just as important as Rubio. Both ministries go that way, the two key departments in the United States. He questioned the measures taken to implement the new law for Brazilian banks. That the banks, you understand? Brazilian, huh? You always manage, don't you? We always find solutions here and fix things there. But with the United States, my friends, there's no way around it. A stick is a stick, a stone is a stone. The sanction was imposed by the White House against Alexandre de Moraes. In the document obtained by the column, McCormick expressed concern about the alleged non-compliance with the sanctions by Brazilian institutions. He argued that the continued presence of a sanctioned individual in such a position of judicial authority creates compliance risks for American individuals and institutions operating in one of the largest emerging markets for American investment. In other words, Banco do Brasil, I'll be honest with you guys, is already in trouble. They're going to get sanctioned, man. It's only a matter of time. But we have other banks too. There's Bradesco, there's Santander. There are several banking institutions that are currently the most protected by this misgovernment. Banks have never earned more money than they do now. But they're going to have to weigh their options. They'll want to operate in dollars. They'll want to work with the United States. Be part of that society for worldwide interbank financial telecommunication system. What? You won't be able to keep sanctioned people on your client list, right? Among the questions, the congressman requested clarification on which specific obligations will apply to financial institutions, funds, and asset managers in the United States. When a sanctioned judge remains active in a Supreme Federal Court, McCormick also asked what measures are being taken by the Treasury Department to ensure that United States citizens are not inadvertently involved in violations of the sanctions. Quote, when Brazilian court decisions have the authority of a sanctioned individual, and guidance will be issued to governments, allies, international organizations, or the private sector to strengthen enforcement. In other words, if they try to find some alternative with a partner entity, they immediately contact international organizations, look at that, and also allied governments to also apply and strengthen enforcement against shutdown. It's not a small thing, no. And look, let's talk openly here. It's a matter of days before Gilmar gets involved too. He's next. They doubted it wouldn't happen, that the magnificent Sanson wouldn't get there, but then it happened to Moraes. Then there was the issue with his wife. It took about a month, a lot of talk, but it happened. That's how it happened. The sanction of a Supreme Federal Court justice over the authority of Global Magnistic is unprecedented. Its implications go far beyond Brazil. It directly affects American investors, compliance regimes, credibility, and international financial governance. Parliamentary argument. They're just protecting themselves. Their investments and also the investors over there in the United States. He even sent a letter here to the Treasury Secretary, sent a letter, Dear Secretary Bassett and Director Smith, the two most important people in the Treasury Department. As a member of Congress, I am writing to express serious concern and to request clarification about the recent Magnitsky global sanctions imposed on Alexandre de Moraes. This designation, announced by OFEC on July 30, 2025, is unprecedented in United States foreign policy. Never before has a sitting judge of the highest court of a foreign nation been sanctioned by these authorities. The basis for the designation is serious violations of internationally recognized human rights, that is, their designation. Let's be clear here, whether it's other countries, it's understood that, what's happening there is wrong and so on. They supported the mural sanctions, but no one wants to get involved. As I read this report, I paused for a moment. Look, Banco do Brasil here, sponsoring ads here on the Metropolis website. Look at this. This is outrageous, right? Outrageous. The bank, which could be sanctioned, is spending the client's money. Bankrolling Brazilian-style musical performance by Lu Borges and Beto Guedes, who are all left-wing artists, sponsored by Banco do Brasil, right? At these little shows, Macatefico, who performs, is a left-wing artist. Why? Do we have any idea? A right-wing artist would never be sponsored by Banco do Brasil, never. Banco do Brasil, which belongs to the Brazilian people, has practically become a private bank. Left-wing artists can get sponsored easily, even though they're unknown because nobody knows them, right? I've never heard of Lu Borges or Sergio Rindes before. It's a crazy thing they come up with just to keep their own people on easy street. Currently, I'm on the Metropolis report. I have nothing against Metropolis. But here it is, look. The advertisement here, look, does this style. A little video, right, flash, right? To be able to pay for it, look, this is what public money is. Pays for the website, pays for the artists. All this endless freeloading, it's outrageous. Continuing here, look. Investor protection, especially for American funds with exposure to Brazilian stocks, debt instruments, and regulated entities. Compliance with sanctions policy, considering possible indirect exposure via legal or regulatory proceedings. Brazilians' financial stability, since Brazil remains a key component of global capital markets. In view of these concerns, I respectfully request that the Department and UFEC provide answers to the following case. Compliance obligation. What specific obligations apply to financial institutions, funds, managers, and assets when a sanctioned judge remains on the Supreme Court? Indirect exposure. How does UFEC Magnetic assess and mitigate the indirect exposure of judicial decisions? 3 mechanisms. Execution. What measures will be taken to ensure that United States citizens do not inadvertently become involved in non-compliance when Brazilian court decisions have authority over a sanctioned individual? 4 coordinations and interagency, as the Treasury is coordinating with the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Federal Reserve to assess systemic risks to the United States market. And several others here. The sanctioning of a Supreme Federal Court justice over Magnetic is unprecedented. Its implications go far beyond Brazil. It directly affects American investors in compliance regimes and the credibility of international financial governance. In other words, they made a deal. Since he's been sanctioned, he's going to have a tough time. It's not as simple as Gilmar is trying to make it seem, right? Gilmar Mendes prompted United States congressmen to write a letter on sanctions against Moraes. Gilmar Mendes' statement in full, right? That Brazilian banks interpret that Magnitsky will not apply to them, says Gilmar Mendes. That the banks decided to take this direction. That's what Gilmar is saying. Gilmar is putting these banking entities in a very complicated situation. It's not just Bradesco Bank and similar institutions, they aren't required to comply. So, understand that Magnetic is only over there in the United States and so on. It's only over there in the United States, but they do business with the United States. And then, look at this. His statement is what motivated McCormick Nay's letter about the sanctions. That weighs even more against Alexandre de Moraes. Globo reports it, right? An ally of Eduardo Bolsonaro, who orchestrated the measure, sent the document. Can I explain something to you here? Globo is playing that perverse game. That Eduardo is insignificant. With Eduardo, it's just flipping burgers. With Eduardo, it means nothing. With Eduardo, he's not even a congressman anymore. Do you think that if they weren't so worried and desperate about everything that Eduardo Bolsonaro has been doing there in the United States, would the situation be like this? Look, my friends, it's all narrative. From the beginning, they work and operate only with narratives. The idea is, let's discredit Eduardo. Paulo Figueiredo. Oh, Paulo Figueiredo is a blogger. Any journalist, anyone who likes Bolsonaro becomes a blogger. So I'm telling you the truth here. I'm a blogger, Lisboa is a blogger, let's go with Fabio, right, from the Gringa channel, right? He's also a blogger. Olimpo do Mundo Polarizado is a blogger, my friend Denis Souza is a blogger, we're all bloggers. Me, for example. The same role that gives credibility to Andrea Sadi as a journalist. The same role that she has, and I have it too. The same role that Bonner has, and I have it too. I studied just as much as they did. Thank God, very different positions. She is Andrea Sadi, Matusaneri, Malu Gaspar. They are bloggers. They have blogs. They have blogs at Globo, in journalism. They have their official blogs. They are bloggers. Me, for example, I never had a blog. I never had a blog. Never. So, look, they want to belittle. Come on, some blogger out there and all. But they are. We aren't even. Do you get how their narrative works? It's just so they avoid belittling. We don't care. For example, me, the champion of the countryside, he made as many friends as you guys. He's there calling you a blogger, says what I know, what goes on, and all that. But I don't give a damn about those people. The truth is that things are happening. They need all of them. They have no credibility anymore, obviously. They don't have any impact either. Journal National is just a shadow of its former self. Not to mention the lousy audience of Globo News, 0.0009. We have a much bigger audience than they do here. A little champion. There are days during the week, on weekends, when we have much more audience than they do. I see it. They have to compete with us, the bloggers, who in fact are bloggers. And that's what they do there with Eduardo Bolsonaro. Let's discredit Eduardo Bolsonaro. He's a little banana who managed something magnificent. From Brazil's top confectioners. What a little banana, and look, things keep moving, it's going downhill. Here, I want to show you that it's not so calm. An important piece of news just arrived and they know it well. Things are bad and it really stinks for them because the connections keep showing up, things keep being revealed, and every day their situation just gets even more complicated. I'm getting the material to show you. When it comes to light, things will get more complicated. The Felipe Martins case, Ana Paula just mentioned it a little while ago, the Felipe Martins case encountered strange resistance in the United States, but the truth moves forward steadily. Photo of Felipe Martins on the day he was released from prison. Then he puts on a t-shirt that says, "I am the one who knocks here," in English. That's when it becomes a political protest. Another key day, the Felipe Martins case in the United States. Publishing information would only hinder progress and aid his executioners and accomplices. However, I leave this here for those who root for the truth. In other words, this girl has been doing an incredible job. There's Felipe Martins over there making progress, and many other cases that the American government is working on. On a Saturday, the American congressman is pressing the Secretary of the Treasury. Sanctions must be strictly enforced, as we saw here. That's significant, my friends. That's a fact. Share this video a lot on WhatsApp, on Telegram, on Facebook, but make sure to hit the like button and come be part of our family here on the Paise Filhos Fabiano Guiguet channel. I'll return soon with more updates. Alright, a lot of news here on this Saturday.